Fueled by C4, Cellucor, and Extend. Use the code Clydesdale to get 20% off at checkout at c4energy.com. On Clydesdale Media, where we bring you the widest array of content here on our YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notifier so you're first to know when new episodes are available. All right, Freya's vibing. What's going on, everybody? We are back and live, Clydesdale Media Roundtable, where we are featuring the athletes of the 2023 CrossFit Semifinals. And one of those semifinalists is with us tonight. I'm going to try so hard. Freya Moosbrugger. Dang it.
There's a little stutter. Try again.
Freya Moosbrugger. Oh my gosh.
There you go.
I've been practicing all day.
Okay, good job. I'll give you a high five.
Is it like a French thing? Like to go with the hard moose into a brugger, it like my tongue doesn't want to make the switch.
Yeah.
Or is it more of like a soft mousse?
Like I would say when you're trying to say it, it would be a bit softer. It's actually Austrian. So it's you're supposed to say it pretty aggressive. When you speak German, everything sounds aggressive. So you just go in it with full confidence. Moosbrugger. But I bastardized it for the Canadians listening. Because I grew up in Canada, I just say Moosbrugger, and that's kind of funny. There's a little joke behind it because we have lots of moose in Canada.
You do.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had moose for the first time like not that long ago.
Okay.
And it was delicious.
Yeah, right? It's pretty good.
It is. It's funny. I feel really bad about butchering it because like I'm of that German descent.
Okay.
Because my last name is Schweitzer if it was to be like full German, but Schweitzer is the American version.
Yes. Yeah, so you should have gotten it, but it's okay.
Okay. You'll forgive me.
Yes, of course.
So last we spoke, I bumped into you at Wadapalooza. You were coming from the lifting event.
Yes.
For teams, and headed back to the athlete area. I asked you a question that day, and I just out of curiosity, I want to know if your answer has changed.
Okay.
So the big talk at Wadapalooza was that it was a lot more aggressive programming than it had been in years past, and that all these people that did individual and teams were kind of blown away by how much programming was being done. I asked you that day, would you do individual and teams in the same weekend again? And your answer was absolutely not.
I think I was pretty sore that day, so it was a straight up no.
Yeah. Now I have done that with other athletes, and then I come back a couple months later and they're like, it wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Like I'd do it again.
Yeah.
Is that common to like be in the moment and be like, hell no? And then 2 months later be like, well, my body's recovered and it wasn't really that bad.
Yeah. I think when you get a little bit of perspective on something, you can compare it to other things and you're like, oh, it wasn't that bad in the grand scheme of things. I think I was pretty beat up that day because on the swim event with the drag rope double unders, when we had to go bare feet for that, I really hurt my Achilles then. So I was kind of just making it through the weekend at that point. And so I think I was a little bit more on the dramatic side when I was like, oh, I'm definitely not doing that again. But now that that injury has recovered and all that, I think maybe they potentially learned their lesson. And if there were to be that individual then teams, I'd be open to it again, probably.
See, every athlete.
Yeah.
Every athlete. Well, and I will say, like, you're absolutely not was said with a smile. Like you still were upbeat and all of that during that time. And my co-host Amy has joined us, and she's going to pop in. She can pop herself in when she's ready. But anyway.
Hi, Freya.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Sorry I'm late.
Oh, no worries. Dinner time. Get it?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you were very upbeat in that moment. And for what you had been through up until that point, that was impressive alone, that you were still upbeat at that point in the competition.
Thank you.
What I want to ask you is, after that weekend of doing individual straight into team, and that competition took a lot of people out. Like the teams changed a lot because people did not
Yes.
continue the weekend, and you survived the whole week. What did you learn most about yourself that weekend?
Honestly, I think Wadapalooza was the only competition I had done in the year before. It was my very first individual, so I was super excited to finally do a competition where it was familiar ground and I knew how it ran, and so I had pretty high expectations going into it, but then I didn't do as well, the second year going there. So I think, you every competition you show up to, even if you have done it a million times in the past, it's still a new competition, new field. So you can't really have too many expectations. You can have expectations of yourself, but not necessarily where you want to place. So I think that was a really good lesson to learn because hopefully, going back to semis or the games, I'll have that same mindset, not like a expectation on results as much, maybe more internally focused. So actually like a pretty in-depth, deep learning from that experience actually.
Yeah, and that's great because I think you've only done 5 in-person comps in your career. So I knew the
Yeah,
article was
yeah,
about Dubai, and it said you had done 4 to that point,
yeah,
and then there was only Wadapalooza after that.
yeah.
So
I
5
mean,
in-person comps.
Wadapalooza we can count as 2 because that was a long weekend.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and all the athletes your age are really at a disadvantage comp-wise because of COVID. Like
Mhm.
all the opportunities were taken away from you for 2 years.
Yeah, for
And
sure. I think, yeah, that was a Michelle actually said your lack of experience is because of COVID and yeah.
so is that why I read that you kind of accidentally qualified for Dubai?
Yes. Yeah.
You were just trying to use the qualifiers as a way to get back into the gym, back into the swing of things, and lo and behold, you qualify for the thing.
Yeah, I saw that the Dubai qualifier, there is a prize purse, so I was like, "Sweet, I'm gonna do that." That was motivation to kinda go hard on a couple workouts that I started training in September, and I think the qualifier was in October, so, I mean, I at that point I hadn't got my heart rate up pretty high in any workout yet, so, I just signed up for the qualifier and thought that was a good idea.
And I know we'll talk about the workouts there, but I'm curious, what did you think about just did you have time to like visit and do touristy things when you were in Dubai?
Oh, yeah, it was amazing. I got there a couple days beforehand to adjust, but I think as soon as I arrived there, I hit the ground running and kinda wanted to see as much as I could, and, there was rumors about the first workout being a climb up the Burj, so I kinda sussed it out a couple days beforehand just to see how tall it actually was, and it was tall.
And then, all right. So since you're there, how did that feel, and how did that go?
I traveled a lot as a kid, so I think, being put in a new environment, that didn't really throw me off guard, but it was just really cool to meet some more European athletes.
Mhm.
I met a few at the games, but I think Dubai really draws in a big international crowd, and there actually weren't too many North American athletes there, way less than usual. So it was really cool to meet a whole new pool of athletes. And since then, we follow each other on Instagram and
Mhm.
have kind of supported each other there. So I'd say, getting some more friendships out of that competition aside from the competing part was really cool.
So speaking of friendships, I also read in an article that that you were kind of taken under Brent Fikowski's wing at
Yes.
Dubai,
Yeah.
because it was a last minute decision for you to even do the qualifier and then make the decision to go. Really, Michelle couldn't go with you. There weren't many North American athletes going, and so Pat reached out to Brent for you,
Mm-hmm.
and Brent then reciprocated and hung out with you for a couple days in Dubai.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really cool. Pat put us all in a group chat, and then I privately messaged Brent, and he's just such a helpful guy and so knowledgeable of the sport, and he does a lot for CrossFit on his own. So I knew that he's the type of person that would definitely be willing to help, and it was nice to get to know his wife Claire a little bit more and meet his baby Evelyn. They're all very sweet.
So we're actually having him on the show on Friday.
Oh, cool.
If there's anything you'd like to say to him.
I'll say, hey, Brent. Yeah, he's killing it in training from the looks of it, and I'll see him actually at semifinals because we're both in the West, so it'll be good to catch up with him then after the competition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you'll be focused.
Did you guys stay in touch much after, or did you guys just go back to your own training? And
I definitely reached out to him about just the side of CrossFit, the professional side in terms of who to look for as a management agency and things like that, because obviously he's been in it for a while. He knows everybody. He has great connections. So I really valued his opinion. He gave me a lot of advice on that. And we just kind of bounced back a couple of conversations surrounding that. So yeah, he was super helpful with that.
yeah, he is. He's really cool. The way I met him was Wadapalooza 2 years ago.
Okay.
He outside the Whole Foods, he had a CBD bath bomb that he could not take across the border to Canada.
Oh.
And he just asked me if I would take it for him. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we met. And he's been on the show now. This will be his second time on Friday.
Nice. Yeah, no, we'll definitely make a point to run into him in Pasadena.
Yeah. Well, I'll be there in Pasadena, so I can't wait for all that.
Sweet.
And
Yeah.
and we'll get into that as well. But Dubai, back to Dubai.
Yes.
We need to focus. So is Dubai overall as opulent as they say?
So throughout the years they've had it at that tennis stadium. And so that's what I had envisioned, when you see across the competition, and the venue is a huge part of the experience. So when they changed it to this indoor stadium, I think it's a new era of the Dubai competition. But I think, to answer your question, yes, especially the city itself. But the competition, I think, had a different vibe than what I was expecting. I was expecting to be thrown out into a desert, out competing outside, but at never one point did I feel sweltering hot during the competition because it's all indoors.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so I was expecting to feel the heat, but I didn't. And luckily I didn't, because it was December in Canada back home when I was training.
So Kenneth asks, which would make a better weekend getaway, Dubai or Vegas?
Vegas. I'm 21, so I can say that.
Oh, Vegas. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, I actually love Vegas, not for the strip, but man, the mountains and the lakes when you get outside of the town are beautiful.
Yeah, I would say the reason behind saying Vegas, one, for the shows, and yes, maybe the scenery, but to get to Dubai, it's crazy far, and for a weekend, so not worth it to endure a 16-hour flight.
Oh, no way. No.
See,
Yeah.
Freya's being practical.
Yes.
Yep.
Being practical. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not worth a 16-hour flight.
No.
So then your first event is a climb up the Burj. When the rumor was circulating, you said, when it became a reality, what was your initial thoughts to that?
Honestly, it was laughable because I remember talking to Michelle the whole time being like, "Oh, I swear if it's this event, I'm not doing the competition, I'm coming home." And she's like, "Haha, eat your words." And so when they announced that it was with a weight vest too, I was like, "Oh God."
Yeah.
But um I think I don't know, it didn't feel as crazy of an event when you're in it. It just felt like you're on the Stairmaster for 25 to 35 minutes. Time kind of stood still and you didn't really know what was going on. You were just surrounded by concrete walls and you just had to climb until you found the finish line. Otherwise, you couldn't stop. There's no exit or anything, so you just kept going.
Is there any kind of like talking or even shit talking while the event is happening?
Maybe with a cup. Oh no, actually, I wasn't around any athletes,
Okay.
but maybe when certain athletes pass each other, I don't know.
Okay.
But beforehand, a little bit.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
not gonna name names though.
That's all right. You don't need to. I'm just curious about the atmosphere. What was
Yeah,
like?
but all in fun and games,
Yeah,
obviously.
sure.
Yeah.
Scott, you're on mute. He does it every time.
I have to do it once a show, or it's not a real Clydesdale podcast.
Yeah.
So in the stairwell, were there any markers telling you how far you'd made it, or was it just
Yeah.
head down?
So occasionally there would be an usher, and they were very sweet. They're like, "Keep going, you got it," and I was like, "Yes, man, thank you." But there was the stairs were marked, so I was kind of doing math games with myself. I was like, "Okay, if you do 20 more, then you're a third of the way through," and all that. Just like talking to yourself while you do that. But every single flight was marked, so that was nice. I feel like if I didn't know where I was, I definitely would have gone slower.
Yeah, I play those math games when I'm just doing wall balls, so I can't even
All the
imagine.
time.
Yeah. Well, if I do one more, then it's less than no.
Yes.
So you get to the top, and then it's this breathtaking view of Dubai
Mhm.
that most people don't even, because you can't even like pay to get to where you guys went to,
Yeah, we were the
right?
highest outside of country people to have ever gone to that flight, I guess. Like they explained to us the magnitude of what it meant to be on that floor, and it was pretty cool. It was so high up that it felt like you're in a plane. So
Mm.
the perception of it felt I thought it would be crazier looking down. Like you would get this sensation of, oh my gosh, I'm falling or something like that. But just felt like you're looking outside of a plane window.
Did you go right to the edge?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I took a selfie over the edge.
That is, you'd have to, right? Like you'd have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I would do that too. My wife would not even leave the stairwell.
Okay. Yeah, there's two different kinds of people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Could you feel it move?
Oh no, that thing is sturdy.
Because my main office building just here in downtown Columbus, Ohio, is 38 floors. And at the top, you can actually feel it move.
What? Oh
Mhm.
my
Yeah,
goodness.
just little bits. It's
Yeah.
just enough to throw your equilibrium off.
Yep.
That doesn't sound enticing as a work work
No.
place.
You have pinned down my job.
Mm.
It is not an ideal place to work.
Yeah, that sounds like a work safe hazard.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how did what was your overall finish? I think you finished 9th at Dubai, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think top 10.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I was riding on the top 10 finishes of out of season competitions. And I was super stoked to clinch that in Dubai. And then I think that's why going into Miami, I was like, yes, let's do even better. I was super motivated, had another competition under my belt. So I was kind of riding the wave of doing all these competitions.
You get to Wadapalooza. The first event is out on the water.
Yeah.
At Bayfront with the long rings.
Yeah.
That were blowing around like I mean, I would have missed the rings on every jump.
Mm-hmm.
And half the athletes were catching one ring and not the other and looking like Tarzan. Did you have any trouble with?
Yeah, it was one of my worst finishes of that competition. It was definitely a yard sale of an event for me personally in my lane. Things weren't going right, so I just tried to do the best I could and just get through it, and I ended up getting capped, but I got as far as I could, and I was already nervous for that event to begin with, like doing it in training. I was nervous to compete, but when they announced that the rings were going to be out on the water, I was just like, okay, it is what it is. And I saw Michelle and my mom down my lane, so I just looked at them the whole time and just did what I could.
Because you're a strong girl. Like when you got to the barbell, that was like the easy part for you.
Yeah, it was the rings that were just all over the place.
Are the rings typically a challenge for you, or was just the environment like adding to it?
I would say in the past, ring muscle ups were something that I've had to really work on. They're better, not the best in comparison to others, but I think, it definitely, when you're not 100% confident with them to begin with, adding that extra element was definitely, nerve wracking for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt bad because our other co-host Kat and I had front row seats for that, and watching not just you, like all the athletes struggle to catch the rings.
Yeah.
It was just catching them, not even doing the muscle up that was probably the most difficult thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we had Trayvon Benton on, a male athlete. He said he missed him so many times and was hanging by one arm.
Yeah.
And then you have to make the decision, do I exert the effort to try to catch the other one while I'm hanging here?
Yeah.
Or do I just fall and try again?
Yeah. Or to keep pushing through and basically do a max set of ring muscle ups because, coming down and resting and trying to get back up to them again would be super challenging. So it's kind of your plan goes out the window when you're put in that situation, and it either works or it doesn't. And that's what you learn from.
So when you have an event like that to start off the weekend, how do you push that to the side and almost act like it didn't happen, and then just focus on the rest of the weekend?
Honestly, I feel like if I don't do that well in an event, the next one is always the highlight of the weekend. Like I always do better coming back from a bad event. So, I mean, I say to my mom or my coach all the time, I'm like, I wish I didn't have a bad event, but at least I'm able to come back from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one strength to lean on, right?
Yeah.
And any strength and any mindset you can build to like lean into at a competition is a bonus for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely will always end on a high note, which is the theme of pretty much every single competition I've been in, but I'm trying to make all of them good. So hopefully semis, knock on wood.
Yeah. So for you, semis last year, you probably kind of knew you were going to Atlas, but it was kind of up in the air for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You did the quarters and then they assigned out where you're going.
Yeah.
But this year you knew from the start of the season, you're going to Pasadena.
Yes.
Is that a helpful thing for you, or does that not even factor into your equation?
It was nice to know kind of early on the layout of the season. I don't even know if last year we knew that there were going to be 4 semifinals or not. So I think CrossFit did a better job this year of laying out the season for us, which I appreciate. And then I double checked with CrossFit that it was okay for me to come to the East region to do this training with Michelle that I'm doing, but to still compete in the West because that's where my address and stuff still is, and I'm qualifying as a West athlete. So, they're very good in terms of communicating that with us this year.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. I'm glad because as a spectator, it was very hard to understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because as someone who's just following the sport and not getting the communications, it was really difficult to understand. While like Sydney McAlishan, who's training in Boston, is in the West, you training, and I think last time we talked to you, you were still training in the West and just kind of going to Montreal occasionally. So that you didn't surprise me, but it was just, and there's a lot more, even more complicated in the United States than in Canada.
Yeah, I'm confused by some athletes, but again, I feel like it's all athlete dependent and I don't know other people's stories or reasons. So I know that when people ask me mine, I'm able to just give them an upfront answer. And I think a couple of people have even reached out on Instagram like, "Hey, why are you in the West if you're in the East?" I'm like, don't, it's like training purposes, don't worry. I like the plan wasn't to relocate, but it just I actually maybe next year I'll end up in the East because I love Montreal, so we'll see.
Yeah. And I wasn't questioning you at all or any of this stuff. It's just I'll just be transparent. For us, we followed 7 athletes through the season from the open, and we're following them all the way to wherever they end their season. And I tried to even it up with half in the East, half in the West. And when it all shook out, I had 1 in the East and 5 in the West.
Okay.
So that's why it was confusing to me. Not that I am bashing CrossFit for whatever.
Yeah. I mean, from a media perspective, it feels like you're kind of chasing around people and
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it.
And so Orlando is going to be like pretty much a documentary of one person, and the West is going to be scrambling my ass off to get to all the 5 people because 3 of them will probably still be in the same heat, and
yes,
it's just going to be insane.
Yeah, the wild, wild West.
Who all's going to be going out with you to Pasadena?
Who? Sorry?
Yeah, who's going to all be traveling with you to go to Pasadena? Like who are you bringing?
So, I mean, it'll be the DECA comp team, Pat and I, and we actually have another guy, Will Bennett, who's on our training camp following the programming and under Michelle. So the 3 of us will be showing up there. And then actually I have a decent group of my family coming. So my mom is flying from Halifax, Nova Scotia. She lives there, so she'll be coming basically cross continent to opposite ends. And then my dad is coming from Australia.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then my sister has a short flight from Vancouver down to Pasadena.
That's great, though.
Yeah, she doesn't even get credit for that trip. Right.
I know. I think she booked it on points too, so it's basically free.
But that's great that you're going to have your whole family there.
Yeah, it's like it's very similar to Atlas last year, that the whole experience of having my family right then and there to watch me make a dream come true was, it just made it that much better. So I'm excited to have them again for support and, just when my name gets called, hear them cheer extra loud.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get into this year's semis completely, last year you made your first games.
Yes.
Went as a rookie. And I want to ask you, what is it like going to the games as a rookie?
So speaking from my personal experience, I started CrossFit as a fan. So before I had done a single CrossFit workout, I had followed the sport probably for at least 6 months, just following all the athletes on Instagram, watching all the videos, absorbing all the content. And then I joined a gym. And then as soon as I walked into the gym, I told them I want to go to the CrossFit Games. So right from the
We're
start,
like, okay, yeah, we've heard
yeah,
that.
literally, right from the start, it was like you know, I just put the games up on this pedestal. I just wanted to get there so desperately, but you know, put in my time. I ended up qualifying, and then it was like, whoa, I'm going there in a month and a half because Atlas was so late. So I kind of didn't have enough time to wrap my head around the fact that I was going to the games. Training was just a blur. And then I show up there, and, you know, the check-in, that was so surreal. I've seen so many videos of people getting their gear, and I was riding a high on that. And then we kind of get put into the workouts, and it's, you know, you're just, you feel like a tumbleweed. You're just going and going and going and going. And then you finish an event and you go into the cement room, you know, the athlete area.
Mm-hmm.
It just, you're sitting on a floor for 3 hours, and then you go be a tumbleweed again. It's just like, when you watch videos, you see, wow, this is so cool, and there's so much action going on. But behind the scenes, it's actually, you know, very drawn out, it feels like. You know, you show up to your athlete briefing, you do the event, you go sit and recover and repeat basically until it's done. And, you know, I think the games were so different this year that I had expectations of what it would be like just from all the videos I've watched in years previous, that, you know, I kind of had to adjust my reference point and think, okay, this is the new games and I'm a part of it now. And so I think this year I have a better, just better knowledge of it now, and I feel way more confident this year.
Is there one thing you would do differently if you knew what you know now?
I mean, a lot of people had told me, make sure you enjoy the crowd, and you can only do your first year once. And I think I did a good job of doing that, especially when we were in the Coliseum. Like, I looked around and took it all in, and that was very cool. I had special moments in there that I'll never forget. So I think I did that well. But I think maybe for my rookie year, just don't put so many expectations on it, and just go compete and try to really push yourself and see where you rank up against the best in the world. Because I think when I was thrown out onto the starting mat and looked around me and saw all these names that I've watched for years, it was like, oh, I don't belong here yet. Like, I don't feel ready. And so I feel like I held back in workouts. So if I told someone who was showing up next year that was a rookie, I would be like, just burn it to the ground. Like, do your best, try your best, and really go for it.
I love that advice.
Yes.
I think that is awesome. It's funny because when we have people on the show, like, it's natural to get connected
Yeah.
to you guys as an athlete, and we want to root for you. Like, you were so gracious to come on right before the games last year. And we were lucky enough that from the get-go, from the bicycle event, like, Amy and I were right beside your lane.
Yeah.
Like, we were right there for that. All the outdoor events. On the sandbag lift, I was right in front of you, able to take pictures. Like, you just get connected and you root so hard. And like, how much did you put into trying to make the cut? And you were so close.
Yeah.
So close.
You know what? I knew that with one event remaining. Well, I woke up on for the second to last day, and I was outside of the cut by, I don't know how many points at this point, but I was, you know, it was close. I was like, okay, this is the day where we put in the work and get there. And then, okay, so the swim event went really well, and I was like, yes, we're inching up there, working for it. And then I think it was a wall ball dumbbell snatch workout. And then I fell down a little bit, and I was like, oh, here we go. This is not good. This is not what I wanted. So I think at that moment, before we had known that the sandbag was coming, I was like, okay, we knew that there was going to be a heavy lifting of some point, of some sort. And I was like, okay, like I have a chance. Like I can really do this. Finally, something heavy. Like I'm going to really give it. And then the sandbag gets announced. And I remember Michelle was on the other side of the barricade because it was all the athletes and then Boz announcing. And Michelle was there at the athlete briefing. And they announce it's a heavy sandbag lift. And I look at Michelle and she's probably like 50 feet away. And like the silent tears are streaming down my face because I actually, in training leading up to the games, really struggled with the 150 sandbag, like just to clean it in workouts. And so when that got announced, my stomach dropped because I knew that the sandbag was a weakness. And at the Capitol event, I struggled with the sandbag. So when they announced that the first weight was 160, in my head, I was like, I'm going to embarrass myself. I'm not even going to make this first one. And I'm getting cut for my first CrossFit Games. This sucks. So that was kind of the mentality going into it. And so when I walked down to the floor, I was like, all right, you have either two options, just embarrass yourself and not lift the first bag, or really go for it. And everybody made the first bag. And I was like, well, you can't be the only one to not. So it was basically just keep catching up with everybody because they are doing it. So you have to. And I ended up surprising myself. And that was probably the highlight. And to end on a good note was really cool. And at that point, I was sad that I got cut, especially knowing the events that were showing up on the last day I loved. So I would have loved to do them, but I was still happy to walk away from my first CrossFit Games ending on that note.
And you ended up lifting
210. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I think, but everybody PR'd. So everybody was like, I don't know how this is going to go. So it was just really special to kind of be thrown into the unknown with all those girls all at the same time. I remember looking down and I was doing the tie break with Tia and being like, oh my God, we're literally tied right now in an event.
Yeah, like I can't even imagine those feelings. And I don't want you to you're like everybody PR'd, but 60 pounds, like you were struggling with 150 in training, 60 pounds.
Yeah.
And you made an attempt at the 220.
Yeah. It was like a 30-second attempt too. Like I was trying to not let go of it. I really wanted that one, but I think at that
it was
point,
right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they could have predicted what a great event that would turn out to be because it took so long to finish the movement.
Mm-hmm.
The crowd just kept building and building and building. It was the loudest I've ever heard the Coliseum.
Really?
In all my years at the CrossFit Games.
Oh, I love that.
How sore were you after the games?
I woke up on the final day and I was sitting in the stands with my parents watching the final events and being like, I feel good. I want to be out there doing it right now. Like I wasn't sore.
Yeah.
I was very well trained.
Yeah.
I was happy to know that. And, you hear about everybody just being absolutely crushed by the games. And, I was like, okay, I'm fit. I belong here. Like, let's go do this better next year.
Love it.
Yeah.
So I've got to ask, on the final day, you are known for your strength. Big time strength events on the final day.
Yeah.
Which really sucks, right?
Yeah.
If you could pick one of those events to do, would you want to do back 9 or the Jackie version or the modified alpaca without the rope climb?
Probably the final Jackie Pro. It just is some classic CrossFit, a grueling workout at the end. Kind of has all the good things in it that I feel like I missed out that I was able to do. So watching that final event, I was like, oh, it would have been so cool to be doing those bar muscle ups facing the crowd and being a part of that experience. Even if I was like in a later heat, not, next to TL, having that moment with Shane, I probably wouldn't have known that was going on while I was working out, but just being able to do that event would have been cool.
would you have had any problem with the cap
On the rower?
on the row?
I don't think so. I would like. Well, I chose that workout because I like rowing. So
Right. I think that changed the dynamic of that workout
yeah.
tremendously, because that row could not be a paced row.
Oh
No,
my gosh, no.
no. I would have gone balls to the wall probably.
You had to.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you finish the games. What's the next step? Do you just like no CrossFit, just get
Wait,
away?
Didn't you go to Italy?
Yes,
Okay, I thought so.
so Michelle said, "Okay, take the remainder of August off. I don't want to hear from you, see you, do anything. Just go." And so I had booked a trip to Italy with my dad a couple months knowing that I had this time off, and that was amazing. And I had been to Italy before, but I didn't remember it because I was a baby. So I had a few bucket list places that I wanted to go, like Venice, see the canals, eat some pizza. So that was really nice. And then I did a road trip from Vancouver down to San Francisco. And I had always wanted to do a road trip. So that was cool. So I did those things, and then I started to get back into training. I'm like, okay, here we go again.
Well, Italy is one of Amy's favorite places. She was there
Oh,
just a couple years ago.
Yes. Pre-COVID.
So
yes.
from both of you, what was your favorite experience in Italy?
You go ahead, Amy.
Oh, I think it's just seeing all the sights, like seeing the Colosseum and seeing things that, you've learned about for so long, but actually just being a part of the culture and immersing yourself with the culture, I would say.
It wasn't the gelato?
No, I mean, I do love some sweet treats like that, but no, I think it was just the culture. The wine, I mean, I like wine, but
Yeah, nice. It was definitely the food for me. Yeah. I
I
think
mean, the pasta is so fresh. It just so good.
when I came back to North America, I was a little bit sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything is just so fresh and like you said, and then sometimes super processed stuff and high gluten stuff can kind of mess up with your stomach and your gut. And I found over there I could eat all the dairy, eat all the wheat, and no problems there. So that was like, oh, I wish we had that here. But that's the reason why you go travel and experience those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What Amy missed is before we came live on the air, we were talking about HelloFresh, and Freya was telling me every one of her favorite dishes were a pasta dish.
Got it.
Yeah. We were even talking about Rosie Joe as well, and I was like,
yeah.
yeah, the pasta. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a surprise that the pasta in Italy was the highlight.
Yeah.
I've never been. I've got to go someday.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
So one big overarching question I want to ask you is, there's a lot of this buzz around the young athletes in North America, especially the United States, with Mal and Emma and all these people, right? But Canada has like this trove of young athletes, you and Annika and Emma Lawson and Sydney Mikulishin, and like it is stacked.
Yeah.
What kind of pride do you have for your home country of Canada when you see all these up and coming stars?
Well, it's really cool. I mean, we had Camille on the podium in 2014, and since then, we've had a couple of Canadian girls who've done super well at the games. But I think now, there's the next generation that's showing up, and are kind of filling in for Canada, and the women especially. Like, it's very cool. We still have the OGs like Pat and Brent and Jeff showing up. Jeff hasn't been around for as long, but he's still crushing it, obviously. So I think, it's just really cool. And you being from the same country, you already have that connection with the girls, and you just show up to a competition and they're there, and you just automatically you're friends. So that's really cool.
And you've had some friendships with those other athletes for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. With Annika, especially because I think, well, one, we got together before either one of us kind of broke out onto the competitive scene, and we did our COVID semifinals, the online ones, and we are in constant communication during then. We are comparing scores and being like, okay, we submit at this time, right? We are just kind of helping each other out through that rough time when it was all online. So we've been buddies for a while, and I met Sydney, I think at the games officially, but we had talked previously. So it was good to see her, and same with Emma. I met her at Atlas. So yeah, it was good.
Does having that group elevate your game, knowing that there's this rising tide that's coming from Canada?
Oh, it's super motivating for sure. Yeah, I think like you again, the Canadian podium spell hasn't been broken since 2014. So of course you want to be the one to do that. And there's a couple girls biting at your heels, or you're biting at theirs, vice versa. So you're like, I want to be the one to do that. I want to be the one to elevate and win.
Yeah. There was a long US one too. I think it was from
Yeah.
Julie Fouché to yeah, and it just happened like Carrie Pierce,
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's look at this season a little bit. You have now all this wealth of experience, all 5 live competitions, right?
Yeah.
But one of those is the CrossFit Games, and a couple Wadapaloozas, a Dubai. Those are not small competitions.
Oh yeah.
Right. So coming into the season, what have you done to prepare yourself to fill the holes from last season?
So the biggest one has been a relocation of training, and working under Michelle and being in Montreal and kind of going all in on CrossFit, because back in Vancouver, I was part-time coach, working a lot at the gym that I was training at, and I didn't have a ton of separation showing up at the gym. I was showing up to work in the mornings, and then I would put on my training hat, and then I would take it off and work again. So that's what a lot of days looked like. But I think now in Montreal, I do coach a little bit, just because I want to stay sharp with that. Oh, yes, that's one of the viewpoints there.
So that's Montreal.
Yes, yeah. And then
And you are not afraid of heights. That is obvious in this picture.
No. Yeah, there's actually a big drop off that goes past that wall there.
Yikes.
Yeah. Yeah, it appears.
Yeah.
And then what was I say? Oh, yeah. So as soon as I got to Montreal, I've been just going around different gyms, meeting a bunch of athletes. There's a competitive, there you go, eating. A competitive gym here, a team, CrossFit Pro 1, and they're gunning to make the games this year. So it's been awesome to have a couple training partners. So that's been super fun.
Yeah. So I know there's a lot of athletes up there too, like oh my gosh, I'm gonna brain fart now, but like Jeff Adler's up there. Do you get any chance to like train with any of those athletes or?
Yeah, so in Miami, I met Jeff and his partner, and they welcomed me with open arms. And the past 2 times I've reached out to him to train, I got the flu or I got really sick, so I had to cancel. And so it hasn't worked out yet, but I mean, I'm pretty sure the offer still stands. But yeah, I got a really bad cold. I'm like, Jeff, I don't want to give this to you. I'm gonna back off from the gym a bit. But I think the biggest difference has been having some training partners, having a coach in person. I think it's a lot more focused. I'm also doing some agility sessions, so purely focused on getting better at explosive power, hand-eye coordination, all of that side of things. So that's another feather in my cap and upping my game as well.
So what do the next 6 weeks look like?
Well, right now we're coming up on a deload. It's been some brutal training. I know Pat posts quite a lot of the actual workouts that we do. And we've been actually doing a lot of regional repeat workouts. It's from 2013, 2014, 2016. So that's been really cool to look back on the videos because they're up on YouTube and I can watch Michelle do them back in the day and, try to beat her.
Yeah, do you go back and coach her and say, you could have done this better?
No, I don't dare. She definitely knew what she was doing then. But it's really nice to have that and learn from and do some pretty grueling workouts. So we're going to go into deload and then following that, another couple hard weeks of training and then another deload and we show up in sunny California.
Well, just so you know, Pat ignores my DM, so I ignore his Instagram. So I'm only going to see the programming through you.
Okay. You have him on mute.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man.
So then you're going to be in California. Are you confident now being you're like second time through? Because now you're not just an unknown, right? You are an established games veteran. You've been to the games. Are you confident that going into semis that you are prepared to put your best foot forward right out of the gate?
Yeah, I still feel like I'm a little bit of an underdog, which is nice because I want to show up and do well and prove to people that I belong, but it's mostly for myself. And, I still have those pinch me moments when I'm like registering for semis and being like, yeah, I made it. And, 16-year-old me would be so stoked that I get to do this a second year in a row. So, I still have those moments where it feels surreal, but I have to look at it in a different view. Like, okay, this is actually your job now and you're treating it like a professional and you're there to compete, not just, enjoy the ride. So I think this year I have a little bit more fire in my belly, which is a better feeling than showing up scared shitless. For lack of a better word.
Yep.
Yeah, that's perfect. So you punch your ticket to the games again this year.
Fingers crossed.
You love food.
Yes.
What is your first meal on Sunday night after you punch your ticket?
Oh man, being in the States, there's access to a lot more, I'd say, fast food chains than what we have up here in Canada. You guys have great fast food.
That's not something for us to brag about. But okay.
Take your win. So after the games, I got Chick-fil-A because I love those waffle fries. And
but it's going to be Sunday, so you can't get Chick-fil-A.
That's true.
What?
Oh, on Sundays.
Mm-hmm. Dang it. Okay. Well, I'll have to wait till Monday then. Man, that's a good question. I don't know because usually the last couple times, maybe take out pizza or something like that. Honestly, at that point, you're like, whatever food I can get in my belly is fine. It's satiating. I don't care what it is because you're so hungry. So I think after semifinals, you then have to go do the drug testing thing. You're waiting around. There's a lot of waiting around. You're talking to people. By that point, you hadn't eaten anything in 5 hours. So I think the celebration meal, whatever it is, will be good enough.
Will you actually have like a true celebration meal like a couple days later?
Probably.
With like your family and all of that stuff?
Yeah, I think since there's a big group coming to watch on Sunday, we'll make a point of probably going out to a restaurant or something. But I know that as soon as I can get my hands on maybe a vending machine or something, I'll just eat a pack of Skittles or Snickers or something.
So man, do you normally are you normally a junk food person, or is that just like after a long weekend,
Post comp.
you just want calories?
Like food is food. I think being an athlete, I do a good job of trying to eat clean like 80% of the time, but that 20%, I can go to town on whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. But as you can see in the Instagram, I love a good pastry.
And
Yes.
pasta.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. You look like Guy Fieri trying to get the whole mouth around that pastry.
Oh, yeah. I was actually him for Halloween.
Awesome.
Now, where's that picture on Instagram?
Only for the friends.
Yes.
Okay. I see where we stand, Freya.
I'll send it to you via DM.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this has been a blast as always. Amy and I are in your corner in Pasadena, and we'll be rooting you on. I'll see you there.
Yes.
So
I'll see you there. Yeah.
Good luck with training over the next 6 weeks, and hopefully we'll be punching that ticket to the games.
Good luck.
Thank you. I'll see you guys there. Take care.
All right. And everybody in the audience, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time on the Clydesdale Media Podcast.